I want you to imagine that you're a 27-year-old who came to this country from the Dominican Republic. You've been here for 10 years. You got your high school diploma. You're married. You live in the Bronx, and that morning you head off to work. You're a union ironworker working at a local 580, and you're heading to downtown Brooklyn. You're working on the new construction of a residential building on Hoyt Street. You work for your company for 4 years, and you've been at this site for 14 days. And on that day, your boss asks you to get into a lift because you're going to be installing windows into this building that's being constructed. There is a hoist that's being operated in the vicinity, and that hoist has been taken out of service while you are in the lift. And you go up on this lift and you're doing your job. You're doing it for a while. And then, unexpectedly, tragedy occurs. The lift you were in is violently struck by the hoist that was lowered at a high rate of speed, crashing into you, crashing into the lift that you were in, tipping it upside down, and sending you crashing into the building. You're knocked unconscious, and the helpless onlookers see you as you're dangling by the safety device that you had attached to your harness. Eventually, you're rescued. You're taken by ambulance to the hospital, where you're kept for 5 days. You've got injuries to your head, your neck, your back, and both your shoulders. You end up later needing surgery on both your shoulders, your neck, and your back. And you learn that the general contractor, one of the big boys in the construction world in New York, the foreman on that site, is blaming you for this accident, saying that you were on that lift when you shouldn't have been, that you were in an area at that job site that you should not have been. That's when you realize you need to have the right lawyer in your corner. Our client calls us and his life has been upended. He's in a terrible accident with seemingly lifelong injuries, and now he's being blamed for it. But on the other side of this case, there was a superintendent at a large construction company that sought to blame our client, saying he should not have been in that lift, and that lift should not have been installing windows while the hoist was operating. Okay, there were two very different stories. So we went to work. We hired investigators, we interviewed witnesses, and despite the protestations of the defendant general contractor, we were able to uncover emails that were pivotal to the outcome of this case. And these emails were from our client's boss to the superintendent of the general contractor, specifically telling the superintendent that our client was going to be in the lift that day installing windows and that the hoist should be shut down. Well, at a moment that seemed like it was straight out of a Hollywood movie, the superintendent from the general contractor came to testify, and she swore up and down that the hoist and the lift should never be used at the same time. She also swore up and down that our client was not supposed to be in the lift at that time. She was confronted by the email exchange between the superintendent, her, at the job site, and our client's boss, where our client's boss told her very specifically that our client was going to be using the lift that day to help install the windows, and that the hoist should not be used. The defense case came crumbling down. One of the things that construction workers who are injured at a job site consistently face is the blame the victim defense. And in this particular case, it was apparent right away that the strategy of this major construction company, they were going to try to blame our client for this accident. And there was a good chance that they would have been successful, but for the fact that we uncovered these emails between our client's boss and the superintendent of this general contractor that was working at the site on that day. Now, this wasn't something that was intentional. It was a mistake, but they tried to cover up that mistake by lying and blaming the victim. Not every client has the luxury of having a law firm that understands and appreciates the nuances of Labor Law 240. Labor Law 240 protects construction workers. In this particular instance, Labor Law 240 served as an invaluable weapon and a protection for our client. we were able to successfully and persuasively argue that we would have won a 240 motion. And that prospect compelled the defendants to initiate negotiations, and it led to a $7 million result for our client, a result that we were very proud of and a client that we were very happy to have represented.